happened is that our copyist, as you see, has copied the upper part of the right half of this painting, the hills and then the river bank with trees and buildings down below. The section down below that and the is not exactly copied. He's turned it more into a Yuan dynasty thing. But okay, anyway, you can see the point. It's based on this well-known painting. Now then, I'm going to interject a painting that another case, which involves the my colleague and good friend Sherman Lee. Okay, this is first here on the screen. This is a painting, part of a horizontal painting, one of two paintings originally mounted together in a single hand scroll, and this is titled. This is Zhuangzi's Butterfly Dream. I think you know, if you know Zhuangzi, the great early Taoist philosopher who dreamed he was a butterfly, and then he woke up and he couldn't quite make up his mind whether he was Zhuangzi having dreamed he was a butterfly or was a butterfly now dreaming he was Zhuangzi. Typical Zhuangzi. Anyway, oh, you know that. Okay, anyway, here he is sleeping, this sleeping figure on a kind of a couch out in the garden, and his servant boy, Bichong, down in the lower left. Okay, now this painting was formerly mounted together with another one that I'll show in a minute, two of them together, and they were involved, this one especially was involved in a famous court case, not famous, but famous among the people who know about it, between C.C. Wang, Wang Jichen, the great Chinese connoisseur, collector, and so on, and Walter Hochstetter, who died fairly recently, someone I admired, knew well, liked, although he was a pretty difficult person in lots of ways. Walter Hochstetter, a major dealer who handled lots of first-class paintings, wonderfully knowledgeable in ceramics, eccentric certainly. Okay, I'm not going to get onto Walter Hochstetter. But at any rate, he and Wang used to engage in trades. I made trades with Wang too, and we got all right, and I traded with Hochstetter. But Wang and Hochstetter made one trade in which Hochstetter felt he had been badly cheated. He had got things that were not as valuable as they were supposed to be, and he brought suit against Wang in New York. And there's a court case, and there is to be a reference to the transcript of this case on my handout. Okay, at any rate, Hochstetter claims that this painting, which had been part of what Wang gave him in the trade, wasn't as old and valuable as Wang had said it was. And Sherman Lee appeared testifying for Hochstetter. Now, next, please. This is pretty complicated. I'll try to make it short. The other painting in the scroll is this one, which is now in the Nelson Gallery in Kansas City, and is a quite wonderful Yuan dynasty painting, generally recognized as a genuine work of a Yuan artist named Liu Guandao. It's called Whiling Away the Summer. A man lying back on his platform out in the garden, two women attendants, his peepaw behind him, and so on. And then behind him a screen with a screen on it. So it's another double screen picture like the one attributed to Zhou and Xu that we saw earlier. Okay, anyway, this picture was originally attributed to the Southern Sung figure painter, Liu Songnian, Southern Sung Academy. But then the famous collector, connoisseur Wu Hufan, the teacher of C.C. Wang, discovered on it, down in the lower corner, you can't see it here, a tiny signature reading Guandao, and he recognized it, that is, as a genuine work of the Yuan dynasty painter Liu Guandao. So this became famous as a Liu Guandao, and has been published as that, and anyway, accepted by everybody. Now, if the other painting, Zhuangzi's Dream, had really been the same artist and had been a companion to it, it would be very valuable. But in fact, it isn't. It's a later copy of who knows what, and isn't nearly as valuable. At any rate, Sherman Lee, next please. Sherman Lee appeared in the court case testifying on behalf of Hochstetter, showing why this painting was not old and good. It had in fact been shown already to several museums, so its value was much diminished, and they had rejected it, that is, and it was generally not nearly as good a painting. Well, one could make an argument on the basis of the figure style, the flattening drawing of the drapery and so on, but I'm not going to try to do that. Anyway, down here, next please, down in the lower corner, where this sleeping Tongzi is a place where Sherman Lee found there and tried to show to the court, to the judge and the lawyers, using slides. He gave them an art historical lecture, and he tried to show them where the artist had made the copyist had made a real mistake. I'm not going to try to reproduce his argument because I don't have the right slides, but there's a tear here that goes down the painting, and somewhere down below in this stand, this piece of furniture, there's a place where the artist, he says, and I don't have the right slides to show it, had painted over the tear in a way that showed that it was, no good. That if it had been genuine, the two parts would be more displaced on the tear. Anyway, he made this argument, and he claimed that his example offers, quote, incontrovertible proof, unquote, that the painting is a copy or a forgery. Now, I have made this kind of argument throughout my career, not necessarily over a tear or whatever, but good and bad versions of things, and what I call pictorial integrity, which is violated when a copyist misunderstands something in the picture, some representational feature, where the original artist gets it right and the copyist gets it wrong. Okay, in writing about this now, I have a reference to an article of my own on authenticity in my handout. In writing about this, I used examples also from a 1962 symposium that I organized, so-called post-mortem symposium on the Chinese Art Treasures exhibition, in which several of the great people of that time used this kind of method. Alexander Soper talking about how a certain artist got the architecture in his painting right for the Song Dynasty, whereas others got it wrong. Or where Sickman may be arguing for where something is painted wrong, and it shows that it's not a genuine Song painting. Or where they're trying to date the ceramics in a painting to show that if you find Yuan Dynasty ceramics reproduced in a would-be Song Dynasty painting, obviously it can't be Song. That is, the general rule is the painting cannot be earlier than the latest datable imagery or feature in it. That's obvious. All right, enough of that. At any rate, I argue this way. Now, what is strange is that there's been a firm resistance from most later specialists to this idea, which I've been promoting, and Sherman Lee was, this idea of pictorial integrity, and to my practice of it. I quoted as an analogy what Carlo Ginzburg wrote about the method used by an Italian scholar, or whatever, art historian, named Giovanni Morelli, around 1870. How the Morellian method, this is pretty well known to Western art specialists, the Morellian method by which you identified individual hands of individual artists by looking at things that you don't normally notice, like the way he paints ears or whatever, how this led to sensational reattributions of important Italian paintings. What had been as a Titian was now seen as a Giorgione, whatever. Even so, although it worked, it was heavily criticized, as he points out. This is Carlo Ginzburg writing, heavily criticized by specialists of the time, quote, in part perhaps because of the almost arrogant certainty with which he applied it, end quote. And I asked with mock horror in my article, can it be that Sherman Lee and I have been seen as, but no, perish the thought, in other words, as arrogant, and of course we were. Arrogant certainty is Sherman and myself. Well, at any rate, this is unfortunate. That is that this difference between specialists has led to the disuse or the failure to use this, what seems to me, very important and, in fact, self-evidently right method. So I'm hoping that younger people in the field can somehow escape from all the fuss that us older people have made against each other, and begin to use this method more and recognize it, and for the great advance of Chinese painting studies. Okay, enough of that. I wanted to mention this because it has been a matter of considerable concern to me, simply because because I think it used right, it can solve a lot of questions that are otherwise seen as unsolvable. And I'll show a few more examples. Okay, the next, please. Okay, now, here is a section of a hand scroll painting by Shunzhou, or possibly by Shunzhou, or close to Shunzhou anyway, I think. Another major Ming artist, whom some of you know, Shunzhou, titled The White Cloud Spring. It's a hand scroll, and ink and some color on silk. A surviving section of what was originally a longer scroll representing scenes of Wu, Wu being the Suzhou area, famous places in Wu, as though you took a kind of tour. Well, this version on silk was owned by my stepfather, George Schlenker. Now is in the Allen Memorial Art Museum in Oberlin College. His collection of Chinese paintings was sold to them, including some quite fine things. I collected them for him. At any rate, this section of the scroll represents a place outside Suzhou, Mount Tianping, and the ancestral shrine of Fan Zhongyan, an important figure from the Song Dynasty, at the base of it. I've been to the real place, and it really looks like this. Rocks on the hillside, and the pine trees, and the shrine building down below. I have slides from the original, but I don't have it with me. At any rate, then here's another section of it a bit further on. I could show the whole thing, but I don't want to. Now, this painting was owned by a Japanese dealer named Kawai in Kyoto, Kawai Shogodo. And after Kawai's death, Larry Sickman and John Crawford, traveling together, visited Kawai's son and bought from him another version of this painting, which had been, Kawai had owned both of them. Here is the section of the other Kawai scroll, painted on paper. And this was bought for the Nelson Gallery in Kansas City. And they brought it back. And when I heard that they had done this, I remembered the silk version as being better. So I went back to Kawai's son and bought very cheap the silk version for my stepfather. Now, what I'm going to talk about is the wall again. Look down here at the wall around the shrine of Fan Zhongyan, and you see these place where the flat stones are set into the base of the wall, more or less alternating, large and small. And of course, they can't have a stone that covers the place where the wall bends. It's impossible. And it's simply represented, but believably represented. Okay, now here, let's look for a minute at, here's a real wall in a place outside Suzhou. And you see these flat stones as they're set in as a kind of base for the wall, and then up above, the wall is made of plaster and painted and so on, and there's a roof on it. All right. But it needs to be this, as I say, to protect the lower part of the wall from wear and keep it solid. And here is a detail of a Song painting, which I reproduced, I talked about earlier, with a wall like that, not quite so clear-cut, but yes, you can see the rocks at the bottom of it. And then we have the section of Wen Zhengming's Living Aloft painting, if we can bring that back. Okay, and what happens in the what I take to be the copy now in Kansas City? Okay, here again is the Kansas City version, the same section, the buildings behind pine trees, the wall, and so on. But look at the way the stones are done down against the wall. The artist has misunderstood this and seen it as if it were large stones piled against the wall, and the lower the lower outline is not straight. That is, they're rough as if they're separate rocks. One of them is placed right over the bend in the wall.